Welcome to Don't Watch Qatar 2022, a series of articles and podcast episodes about the dilemma many football fans are facing right now, to watch or not to watch the upcoming World Cup. My name is Enzio Bakker, I'm a Dutch football fan, and I decided a couple of years ago that I'm not going to watch this year's World Cup. In the next few episodes, I'll explain why by answering 8 questions every football fan should ask themselves. Today we'll focus on question number 1. Is this World Cup really that bad? Why did I start with this question? Well, mainly because I knew something was wrong about this tournament, but I didn't know the exact details. I decided to dig these details up, and to make them visible to you guys, I made a timeline in which I'll highlight a few key moments. The full timeline is on our website, Don't Watch Qatar 2022, but in this episode we'll discuss the most important ones and I'll list them right now. The first moment that's really important in the history of this World Cup is December 2, 2010. On this day in Zurich, world leaders and football legends were gathered in a studio where they would watch the selection of the World Cup host for 2018 and 2022. The rest of the world was watching on TV while Sepp Blatter was speaking to his audience. Sepp Blatter was the FIFA president at this moment and he was at the height of his power. He was plagued by corruption allegations for almost a decade, but at this moment Blatter is FIFA, and if you'd ask him, he is football. Most fans know how corrupt he is, but nobody can do anything about it. He's there and he's in power and he'll stay in power no matter what. Blatter gives this rambling speech about football and how it teaches fair play and respect. He even claims that football is a source of hope for all mankind. And this speech really stands in stark contrast with what happens afterwards, because Russia is awarded the 2018 World Cup and a Russian representative comes on stage and gives a speech as well. And one of the things he says is, "The world will never regret this." After Russia was awarded this, we could move on to 2022. At this stage, everybody expected the USA to win the World Cup. They had already beaten Australia and a joint bid by Japan and South Korea. And the only thing standing in their way now was a tiny oil country, Qatar, that started the race as a total dark horse. And nobody really believed that Qatar was going to be picked. On stage, Blatter made a big deal of receiving an envelope by a special auditor from Zurich to show that the results are not meddled with. And then the FIFA boss takes out a sheet of paper with 5 letters on it, Qatar. There's a deafening silence and it's broken by a few Qataris who are falling into each other's arms because they're celebrating that the whole world will be watching their country in the summer or maybe the winter of 2022. Right away people start speculating, isn't Qatar way too hot for a World Cup? Do they even have stadiums? Do they care about football at all? And most of all, has our planet's biggest football event just been sold to the highest bidder? Then it's silent for a couple years and the next big date is September 25, 2013. After these years of relative silence, the bubble finally bursts and there's a big reveal by The Guardian, the English newspaper, which tells us that the 2022 World Cup will be made by modern slavery. The report tells about hundreds of thousands of migrants, mostly from Nepal, India, Pakistan and several African countries, who have been coming to Qatar for years to work on stadiums and infrastructure. And when they arrive, they are put into the kafala system. This system means that their employer can confiscate their passport and can keep it as long as they want. The workers are then forced to work for sometimes 12 hours a day in temperatures of up to 50 degrees Celsius, often without drinking water. In some cases they don't even get food afterwards. And in these poor conditions, workers are dying almost daily. On top of all this, many don't even get paid, and without their passports it's impossible for them to switch jobs, let alone leave the country. The experts in the Guardian article estimate that about 4,000 of these migrant workers will die by 2022. One of the men interviewed shares his story. He came to Qatar to earn money for his wife and kids, and he was promised that he would make 1,500 Qatari rial a month, but in reality he only receives 900 rial. He has to share a small dirty room with 11 other men and he would rather leave, but he has to pay off the debt from traveling here and he has to provide for his family. Another man interviewed came to Qatar, and even before he reached Qatar, his contract that he signed got torn up. Upon arrival, he was told that he would make much less than what he signed up for. He decided to run, becoming an illegal alien. He now lives on the streets, where he frequently has to escape the Qatari police. A third man also ran, but to the Nepalese embassy. He says, "For 2 months we had to beg for food. Until now I haven't even sent 1 rupee home to my son. We were suffering a lot, but still the manager came and beat me at night. We went to the police, but they wouldn't do anything." Without his passport, even the embassy can't send him home. And because of all the stress, all of his hair has fallen out. Mohammed bin Al Thani, the son of the Emir of Qatar, who is tasked with overseeing the organization of the World Cup, brings out an official statement in which he claims to be very worried about the situation. He says he's going to improve the workers' rights and he will enforce them more strictly in cooperation with organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. The 2022 World Cup will bring huge improvements for the migrant workers in Qatar, and none of this will ever happen again. To the average football fan, these are reassuring words. Another reassuring thing happens on October 8, 2015, again in Zurich. Sepp Blatter is finally suspended from all football-related activities by the FIFA Ethics Committee, together with his henchmen Jérôme Valcke and Michel Platini. He is found guilty of making a 6-figure payment to Platini right before his re-election in 2011, among other charges. Common knowledge about FIFA is now definitively confirmed. It's a corrupt mess. But the biggest symbol of this corruption, the Qatar World Cup, is not mentioned in the entire case. But there are countless suspicious activities. For instance, high-ranking FIFA officials turn out to have received millions in payments from companies with alleged ties to Qatar. Platini had a secret dinner with the then French Prime Minister Nicolas Sarkozy and Qatari representatives right before the World Cup elections in 2010. At this dinner, trade deals and the sale of Paris Saint-Germain are said to have been discussed. And there's a 350-page report about corruption regarding the World Cup, which confirmed many indirect favors. Despite all this, the Ethics Committee of FIFA acquitted Qatar of any allegations of corruption. It has thrown Blatter, Valcke and Platini under the bus for all the bad publicity that they caused, but FIFA and Qatar are still working together tightly. Blatter is succeeded by Gianni Infantino, and he seems to be the perfect pick. His reputation is much more positive. He never got into trouble. At least that's what most fans believe. Infantino's involvement in Blatter's wrongdoing was revealed in the Panama Papers. He also helped Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City to evade the rules of financial fair play when he was still working for UEFA. He also met in secret with Swiss Attorney General Michael Lauber, who was supposed to prosecute FIFA on an ongoing corruption case. But somehow Infantino, with his bald head and naughty smile, was never really hurt by all these revelations. Now we'll fast forward to April 2, 2022. In Doha, Qatar's capital city, the World Cup draw is held. Mohammed bin Al Thani and the big boss himself, Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, are ready to show their country in all its glory. Gianni Infantino will be the world's guide, giving us a tour through this great nation, accompanied by a host of former football stars. But despite all the promises they made and the symbolic changes that seem to have taken place, there's still a grim reality behind the facade. Qatar is a monarchy without elections, where you can get stoned to death for being gay, or if you're a woman, even for owning a cell phone. A country where the emir can put you in prison if you say anything negative about his family on the internet, and where foreign journalists end up in jail for asking critical questions. But our primal concern, of course, is the way in which the World Cup stadiums and infrastructure have been built. In November 2020, Amnesty International published a report in which it became painfully clear how Qatar tries to obfuscate its practices. Yes, on paper the country did a lot to improve workers' conditions, but in practice barely anything has changed. Qatar and FIFA only do the bare minimum to make bad publicity go away. Their only goal seems to be to save as much money as possible on their tournament, while painting as nice a picture as possible for the rest of the world. So far, unfortunately, they are succeeding. The number of deaths is now estimated at 6,500. Although Qatari authorities keep downplaying that number. The Qatari don't seem to realize that ultimately the exact number is beside the point. Even if the official Qatari number of just 34 would be correct, it doesn't excuse the brutal conditions migrant workers are subjected to. The country is treating human lives as fodder. The poor living conditions, long days of heavy labor in the scorching heat, all of it often forced and without pay, constitute an amount of suffering which should be strongly condemned, even if nobody died from it. So, is the Qatar World Cup really that bad? In short, the situation is as follows. Qatar, which has no significance as a footballing nation and is unfit to organize a World Cup because of its climate, probably paid several FIFA higher-ups to get the tournament. After years of bad PR because of Blatter and his crew, FIFA cleaned up shop but keeps profiting off of this lucrative tournament. Both Qatar and FIFA only did the bare minimum to end the modern slavery at World Cup building sites. When the ball starts rolling in Qatar's brand new stadiums, this will be made possible by forced labor, broken families, unpaid salaries, people who have lost years of their lives because they couldn't leave the country, and, probably, thousands of deaths. All this while those in charge, who stand to gain the most, are purposefully prolonging these practices while making average football fans believe it's not that bad. There can be no doubt, this World Cup is made with blood, sweat and tears, and not in a good way. Maybe it will be a terrible World Cup, but wasn't Russia just as bad? I watched back then, so why don't I watch now? Therefore, in the next chapter, the central question will be the following. Is this World Cup so much worse than previous World Cups? Stay tuned. To read more about these issues and to check the sources I use to piece all this together, visit our website don'twatchqatar2022.com. If you want to support us financially, please don't. We don't want to profit off this tournament. Instead, please donate to one of the organizations listed on our website. Also, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok. We'll keep you posted on the next episodes. Thanks for listening. This was Enzio Bakker from the Netherlands. I'll hope you join us again next time.